In the history of Christianity of India, in India, 19th century is known as the century of missionary movements and the 20th century as the ecumenical movement. One can confidently say that Christianity in India had contributed much to the ecumenical movement. In India, mission, missions and the denominations were independent organizations, each advocating its own type of teaching and discipline, which resulted in a great number of separate organizations. It was in such circumstances that the need for unity was felt by various missions agencies as well as by the leaders of the Indian churches at the dawn of this century. M. Thomas said that Christian ecumenism refers to the movement which has come into being in this century to overcome the division within the Church of Christ and restore its unity as a universal people of Christ. There are some Indian individuals, namely Lal Behari De and Krishna Mohan Banerjee, who are worth noting because of their effort in liberating the Indian churches from the Western imperialism. The leaders wanted to have a united church where the church should be one and not divided, native and not foreign. Resolutions were passed pointing out to the authorities of the churches and missions that the need for working towards a larger unity, if not towards one united church.
Hold on, yeah. So what we see here is it's very clear, right? The first topic is on expressions on of ecumenism. So right from the 19th century, 19th century is called as a great Protestant century, a century of missions. Our topic I don't know how many of you remember. We have done that. 19th century is called as a great Protestant century. But 20th century is called as as a century of ecumenical movement, where independent idol organization has come together unitedly with a unity consciousness. Okay, maybe we can use this word consciousness, or unity consciousness. So, but when we speak about India, even looking from an Indian perspective, there were a lot of this national, individuals like Lal Bihari Dey and Krishna Mohan Banerjee. Their names are worth noting. What they did to liberate the Indian churches from the Western kind of imperialism, Western kind of what is that influence, right? Like last class also we discussed the various cathedrals, the style, the liturgy, everything. Whatever we have mostly is from even the policies that we have is from the Western. So so they took this initiative and effort to work for a larger unity, to make a single in a united church. So these are the earlier expressions of ecumenism, or church coming together. Let's see how far it was successful. Yeah, next you can read 1.1.
The unity movement, the 1800s and 900s. Since the mid 1800 AD, many Protestants and other Christians have shown an increasing desire to overcome their differences. They have sought to unite various Protestant denominations and to encourage cooperation through federations and councils. They also have worked to increase goodwill among Protestants and members of the Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholic churches. The founding of the Christian Literature Society, the Christian Endeavor Convention, the YMCA, the Student Volunteer Movement of India and Ceylon, Indian Missionary Society, and the National Missionary Society was of great significance. For these organizations and movements were instrumental in bringing together European and Indian church leaders of different denominational hues on a common platform and for a common cause. Among them, G.S. Eddy, L.P. Larson, J. Duthie, J.H. Wyckoff, John Mott, C.J. Lucas, V.S. Assyria, K.T. Paul, V. Santiago, and A.J. Appasamy deserve special mention.
So these names are very important, especially V.S. Azariah. He was the one who was a representative of, representing the Indian churches. He went to 1910 Edinburgh conference, okay, in 1910 meeting. So V. Azariah and V. Santiago, and then of course all these people, connected to various other missionary societies and agencies, they they were instrumental in bringing together the, coming together as a common platform. What we see is that even individual entities, individual Ayatollah mission societies, they all came together to a common platform, right? And the major names we see: G.S. Eddy, L.P. Larson. So what we notice is here is that, not just the Indian people are there, but also the European people are there, right? So they are coming together, and they are working together to make sure that India has its what is that? It's earlier initiative of coming together as a movement, but it did not start as a what is that? It did not start as a church or as a big ecumenical body like WCC. It started as a movement. Oru movement aayittu. It started. What is the meaning of movement in Malayalam? Malayalam oru so yeah. So even Christianity, Christianity also was never an institutionalized setup, institutionalized body like the Catholic Church. And having an official thing, and having a lot of things. So it was never an institutional setup. With administrative structures and administrative bodies and councils and all those things. Of course, പിന്നെയാണ് ഈ വലിയ ഓർഡറും കാര്യങ്ങളും ഒക്കെ വന്നത്. അത് പലരും അത് എഗ്രി ചെയ്യുന്നില്ല. But the word of God says it very clearly. There is a need of order in God's house. ദൈവത്തിന്റെ സഭയിൽ എന്ത് ആവശ്യമാണ്? ഒരു ക്രമം ആവശ്യമാണ്, ഒരു ഓർഡർ ആവശ്യമാണ്, right? So ഒരു കുത്തഴിഞ്ഞ ഒരു പുസ്തകമല്ല ദൈവത്തിന്റെ സഭ. So even when we look in the larger spectrum, even in the ecumenical body also, we can see it started as a movement. Everything starts as a movement, initiative, but then it comes into an organized, structure. Okay, let's go ahead. Yeah, so it started as a movement. Then, people came together in the conference. You can read, yeah, 1.2.
Ecumenism in India following 1910 Edinburgh Conference. Following the International Missionary Conference held in Edinburgh in 1910, there was even greater motivation for cooperation and union among churches. One of the direct consequences in India of the Edinburgh Conference was the formation of the National Missionary Council in 1914, which later became the National Christian Council of Churches. The National Missionary Council organized regional Christian councils. One of the objectives of the Regional Christian Council was strengthening of the evangelistic outreach as a joint or cooperative activity of all the churches. The experience of such a joint evangelistic program of the Madras Regional Council led the churches to raise the question afresh as to whether there was any valid reason for the churches to remain divided when they had the same gospel of Jesus Christ to proclaim in their evangelistic missions. As a result of this realization, an informal meeting of pastors and Lutheran, Methodist, South India United Church, and Anglican churches convened by Reverend V.S. Azariah, later Bishop of Dormakel, and the Reverend V. Santiago took place at Tranquebar, which later led to the formation of Church of South India in 1947. In the following points, we shall see further the development of ecumenism in India through the formation of several unions.
If you would recollect last class we had, city churches, then regional thing, then we had this national this thing. So last class also we explained this thing, but this is a different material. So again, here we see, V.S. Saraya, Bishop V.S. Saraya and Reverend V. Santiago, they initiated this movement which took place in Cuba. So everything, it started as a movement, then it ended up in the conference, Edinburgh Conference in 1910. And through that experience, we see 1914, what happened, formation of NMC, NMC, National Missionary Council, which was later developed as a NCC, NCCC, right? NCCC, that is National Christian Council of Churches. So what I'm trying to say is that, everything starts as a movement, okay? But before movement, it starts with individuals with their vision. Then it starts as a movement, collective consciousness, rather than individual, kind of movement. It becomes a collective consciousness of unity, So what I'm trying to say is that even during this pandemic, even despite of all the different religious background and traditions that people are having, what we see, one side, there is a big government agenda that is going on. Other side, we see there is a collective consciousness that is happening. എല്ലാവരും ഒരുമിച്ചുള്ള ഒരു collective ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു unity നമുക്ക് കാണുവാൻ പറ്റും അല്ലേ? So in the same way, in this Christian expression of ecumenism is also something similar. What we see is that in the pandemic, we see all these people have come together and and they're raising voice against the government, against the various what is that agenda against pandemic, 5G, what is that? This radio, this thing, what is it? 5G network issues, electromagnetic radiation issue. So all these things collectively, people are coming as one voice. Collective consciousness is coming, and that is where some new movements are starting up, even in India, and and a lot of people are coming together from the United States, Australia. So അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ഇവിടെ നമുക്ക് കാണുന്നു, like different people are coming together in ecumenical circle, right? A unity consciousness is built up and forming a new dimension, of working together collaboratively. So that is what we see, that people like Bishop Azaria, who had that consciousness that it is not that, churches need to be isolated and, they need to function as individual entities, but they need to come together, and function, and we all need to function unitedly. So that was the thing that happened in Cuba, and it became successful in 1947. The Church of South India was formed, formation of South India. So next we see the formation of various. Next, who will read? Okay. You can read. Next. Oh, can somebody else read? Your voice is not clear. A lot of network അത്ര clear അല്ലാത്തതുകൊണ്ട് clarity കിട്ടുന്നില്ല. Break ആവുന്നുണ്ട്. Somebody else there? Somebody else?
Vinoy Pastor is there.
Yeah, Vinoy Pastor can read. Yeah.
Different church unions and their expression of ecumenism. Different church unions contributed in the development of ecumenical movement in India. Below are some of the unions and their contributions towards ecumenism. Next, South India United Church, SUC. In India, the organic union started at the beginning of the 20th century. The first interdenominational union was the South India United Church, SUC, formed in 24th July 1980. This was the union of all the Congregationalists and Presbyterians in South India and the Jaffna district of uh, Ceylon in 1990. Later, the Basel Mission district of Malabar also joined. The church order was a mixture of Congregationalism and Presbyterianism. Next also, sir.
Yeah, please
SU
continue. Yeah, continue.
SUC and ecumenism. The SUC, from the time it has been formed, strive for unity among the
So
churches.
what
And
we see is SIUC, South India United Church. So first thing is individually, then child as a movement. They went to the conference. Then we see the first expression of ecumenism started in south part of India, right? So there, what we see, this Congregationalists and Presbyterian people, they came together in South India, in the Jaffna district of Ceylon, that is in Sri Lanka, right? So the South Indian people, they came together in 1919. Then, the Basel Mission, from the district of Malabar also joined. Basel Mission also joined. So all these entities joined together, and there we see SIUC was formed, South India United Church. അപ്പോൾ ഈ കോൺഗ്രിഗേഷണലിസ്റ്റും പ്രസ്ബിറ്റേറിയനും ബേസിൽ മിഷനും ഒക്കെ അടങ്ങുന്ന ഒരു ഒരു കൂടിവരവ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ what is that? They came together, and there we see SIUC was developing. Okay, so what happened there? Okay, you can go ahead and read. Yeah, SIUC and ecumenism. Yeah. You can read till this CSI. Okay, you can read till CSI. Yeah.
yeah. So the first one, sorry.
The SIUC from the time. SIUC and ecumenism. Yeah.
Okay. SUC and ecumenism. The SUC from the time it has been formed, strive for unity among the churches and look for wider union. SUC had a meeting with the evangelistic forward movement and the Anglicans on May 1 to 2, 1990 at Tranquebar. This meeting resulted in the issuing of statement which is known as the Tranquebar Manifesto. They stated that church unity is the will of God and it is biblical, that divisions in the church affected evangelism in India. The Tranquebar Manifesto came out with 4 basic points for the union. The Holy Scripture of the Old and New Testaments as containing all things necessary for salvation. The Apostles' Creed and the Nicene Creed. The third one, the 2 sacraments ordered by Christ himself, baptism and Lord's Supper. For the historic episcopate locally adapted. However, the LMS and in specific Travancore Church Council of SUC find it difficult to accept the last point on episcopate, but negotiations were invited with the stakeholder unions. As a result, greater flexibility in terms of interpretation was provided and mixed ministry was entertained. Later, after several talks and discussion, the CSI was formed in 1947.
Okay, what we see here is that, okay, I hope you understood, right? The Tranquebar Manifesto was, it came out 4 points. 3 points was fine. When we come together in union, there are similar factors, similar things we can, എന്താണ് പറയുന്നത്, churches എല്ലാം ഒരുമിച്ച് വന്നപ്പോൾ, so what they found common was in union was the scriptures, Old Testament, New Testament, then of course the Apostles' Creed and the Nicene Creed they had in common. Then the sacraments, of course, baptism and the Lord's Supper, the Eucharist, right? Of course, we don't use the word Eucharist, but Catholics use that. But Lord's Supper, right? Communion, Holy Communion, all these things were common. But when they added the historic episcopate, that means they were speaking about tradition. So that that is all about administration, and that is again a big issue, right? So but when the Travancore Church Council of SIUC and the LMS, the London Mission Society, they came together, they were not able to escape accept the episcopate part, right? Episcopate means the church administration of each churches would be governing and administering, so there is no point in unity, right? But somehow with all the negotiations and talk, what we see, CSI was formed in 1947. CSI was formed in 1947. Yeah, you can read CSI. Yeah.
The Church of South India was established on 27th September 1947, and it was considered to be one of the greatest contributions of the Indian Church in the ecumenical movement. Sir. The finished, sir. Hello.
Yeah, please read. Yeah, please read. CSI and ecumenism where I can. Yeah.
I can't.
You're not able to see.
Get. Can't see.
Okay, let me continue. So, finally we see the CSI was formed, which was an initiative of VSSRI and this V Santiago. These are prominent church leaders. Then we see, like I said earlier, Western missionaries also supported the Indian initiative of unity among churches. People like H.A. Popley and G. Sherwood Eddy, these are all Western missionaries of the Congregational Mission. So avarum kuda endu chedu, support chedu Indiade. This kind of an initiative was supported by the Western missionaries, the European missionaries, at large. Okay, CSI and ecumenism. We see CSI was formed in 1947. Then we see
in the CSI
okay,
and ecumenism in the constitution of the CSI in the section of governing principles under the heading the purpose and the nature of the union. It said in every effort to bring together divided members of Christ's body into one organization, the final aim must be the union in the universal church of all who acknowledge the name of Christ, and that the test of all local schemes of union is that they should express locally the principle of the great Catholic unity of the body of Christ. They also facilitate networking among the churches and the mission boards, fostering the message together in mission. CSI worked in partnership with the Malangara Marthoma Syrian Church of India and the Church of North India. These three associations of CSI, CNI, and the Marthoma Church formed a joint theological commission, JTC, in 1975 with the objective of exploring the possibilities of close cooperation between the three churches. They also formed the Communing of Churches in India, CCI, in 1978 for mutual recognition of the ministry and leaders, intercommunal relationship, and to explore possibilities of working together. Later, the Methodist Church in India also joined the communion. Till this date, the CSI have been inviting associations for discussions and to find ways to come together as Indian churches. Church of North India, CNI. The Church of North India was inaugurated on 29th November 1970 at Nagpur under the presidency of Reverend uh,
Gurbachan Singh.
Gurbachan Singh. Gurbachan
Hmm.
Singh. It was the joint collaboration of the Convention of the Churches of the Disciples of Christ, the Methodist Church, British and Australian Conference, and the
Okay,
annual
what we
conference
see
of
is,
the
hold on. What we see is that, okay, you did not stop in CSI and ecumenism. CSI was the only church which took initiative. CSI ആയിരുന്നു ആദ്യത്തെ സഭ എക്യുമെനിസത്തിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട്, യൂണിറ്റിക്ക് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് മറ്റ് സഭകളെ ആ സഭകളുമായിട്ട് ചേർന്ന് പ്രവർത്തിക്കുവാൻ മുൻനിരയിൽ ആദ്യമേ എന്ത് ചെയ്തത് വന്നത്. 1975 JTC ജോയിന്റ് തിയോളജിക്കൽ കമ്മീഷൻ ഫോം ചെയ്തു. അതിനകത്ത് CSI, CNI, Marthoma Church, right? Malankara Marthoma Syrian Church was there, right? So all those things we see. Later we see, the Methodist Church also joined. Okay, now speaking about the CNI Church, we see 1970 in Nagpur in Maharashtra under the presidency of Reverend Gurbachan Singh. So what we see is that, in one of the churches involved in CNI is, the Convention of the Churches of the Disciples of Christ, Churches of the Disciples of Christ, the Methodist Church, the British and the Australian Conference, and the annual conference of the Church of the Brethren, that is a Baptist church, right? The Brethren Church, Church of the Brethren Church came together forming the CNI. Okay, so next is, what is the expression? What is CNI and ecumenism? CNI, just like CSI, also began to participate in many ecumenical bodies. Okay, so we see that there was a joint council that has happened with CSI and of course the Marthoma Church, which is called as the CCI. Okay? CCI, that is Communion of Churches in India. So it was like affiliated not only with the national councils but also with the international councils. So then we see, of course, we saw how the Methodist Church, MCI, right? MCI, Methodist Church in India, is coming together, and we see how, the in the Union Negotiation Committee that was held in 1984, we see that CNI emphasized more on the ecumenism, and how the various 26 dioceses that was present in CNI Church, came together, and they were working together for the Christian unity, for the church unity, even to this day. Okay, so CCI in the Communion of Churches in India comprised of three main churches: CNI, CSI, and Marthoma. Okay, that is as simple as that. That is a joint venture. So again, next conference we see after 1975, what we see in 2004, March 7 to 10 in in Shantigiri, they all came together in Aluva, that is in Aluva, right, in Kerala. So here they all came together again for discussions. What we see, Pentecostal churches, Roman Catholic Church, or the other Orthodox churches, even though they were invited, they were not ready to compromise with their episcopate and with their, with their doctrinal things. So what we see, only CSI and CNI and Marthoma Church formed the CCI, right? So when we speak about CCI, what we see is that they came together, and what were their aims? Is there somebody else other than only four people are there, right? Yeah. Yeah. So what were the aims? Their aim was to serve a common organ for the visible manifestation, to assist the churches. Second one, to assist the churches to address the issues affecting and threatening life. Then, of course, the issues of peace, integrity of creation. That means creation. ദൈവത്തിന്റെ സൃഷ്ടിയെ പ്രകാരം we call it eco-theology, right? Eco-theology. How to handle issues like deforestation, burning of forest, and how to use the natural resources like water. How to address issues on pollution. And all these things were crisis. So what we see is that CCI began to address things even in the national level by bringing out issues, right? And we see they came into the social milieu, or the social platform, or the social stream, where they begin to contribute in a smaller level. Today also we see in നമ്മൾ CSI സഭകളൊക്കെ നോക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ in Trivandrum, there are from different parts of Kerala, we see they have their own contributions, right, as a part of CCI. So this all started from the ecumenism. The ecumenism ഇതെല്ലാം തുടങ്ങിയത്. Various issues on peace, justice, and integration of creation. വ്യത്യസ്തമാകുന്ന philanthropic works എല്ലാം CSI സഭകൾ അവർ ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. So all this started here when they came together and they felt that they need to take an initiative. Okay, so but they also tried.
CSI ചർച്ച എല്ലാം സാറേ ഇപ്പോഴേ ഈ കാലഘട്ടത്തിലെ CSI ചർച്ചകളുടെ എല്ലാം പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾ വളരെ ക്ഷീണാവസ്ഥരായി പരിമിതപ്പെട്ടു പോയില്ലേ?
ഉണ്ട്. പക്ഷെ എന്റെ ഒരു സ്നേഹിതനുണ്ട്, ബിഷപ്പാണത് ട്രിവാൻഡ്രത്ത്. Sorry, he's not a bishop, sorry. That is Methodist Church. എന്റെ വേറെ സ്നേഹിതനുണ്ട് ഗുജറാത്ത്. ഇത് ട്രിവാൻഡ്രത്ത് എന്റെ കൂടെ പഠിച്ച ഒരാളാണ്. അദ്ദേഹം വളരെയധികം സോഷ്യൽ വർക്ക്സ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട് ട്രിവാൻഡ്രം. ഹീസ് ഫ്രം ട്രിവാൻഡ്രം. His name is Prakash Jaswal. So he is involved in a lot of social works, social areas. അദ്ദേഹം ഒരു അച്ഛനാണ്. So they are in prison ministries, and they are into various ministries. Very powerfully, they are also contributing to the eco-theology, ecological. പക്ഷേ നേരത്തെ അപേക്ഷിച്ച് കുറവായിരിക്കും. പക്ഷേ സഭയിൽ നോക്കുവാണെങ്കിൽ they still involved in various issues. I don't know about Kerala much, but I feel that they have not stopped. ചില ഏരിയയിലൊക്കെ മലബാർ സൈഡിലൊക്കെ ഒരു പക്ഷേ എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു നിങ്ങളുടെ ഏരിയയിലൊക്കെ ഒരല്പം ഒരു ക്ഷീണം വന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. മലബാർ ഏരിയ I feel because of the Muslim presence. Yeah. Muslim presence
ഒത്തിരി കുറഞ്ഞു. ഇപ്പം തമിഴ്നാട്ടിലുണ്ട്. തമിഴ്നാട്ടിലെ CSI CNI CSIയുടെ ഒക്കെ പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾ ശക്തമാണ്.
Yes. മലബാർ കന്യാകുമാരി, നാഗർകോയിൽ, ആ ഏരിയയിലൊക്കെ ഭയങ്കര സ്ട്രോങ് ആണ്. CSI പ്രസൻസ് വളരെയധികം സ്ട്രോങ് ആണ്. ഇന്നും വളരെയധികം ശക്തമായിട്ടാണ്. ഓഫ് കോഴ്സ് ഇൻ തമിഴ്നാട് ഓൾസോ, ചെന്നൈ ആൻഡ് മധുരൈ ആൻഡ് of course all the places you can name. in തമിഴ്നാട്ടിലും വളരെയധികം സ്ട്രോങ് ആണ് CSIയുടെ പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾ. coming together and helping people, needy ആയിട്ടുള്ള ആൾക്കാരെ ഹെൽപ്പ് ചെയ്യാനാണെങ്കിലും മറ്റ് ഇഷ്യൂസ് മുൻപോട്ട് കൊണ്ടുവരാനാണെങ്കിലും CSI അച്ഛന്മാരൊക്കെ വളരെയധികം they are tied up with the local governing bodies. So even many of the what about Mohan C. Lazarus? ഒരു അറിയപ്പെടുന്ന ഒരു പേരല്ലേ Mohan C. Lazarus, Dr. D.J. Dinakaran. They all, these are the big names when it comes. Of course, he's no more Apostle D.J. Dinakaran, but we see many of these big names even in evangelism. They are, big crusade preachers and all. So they are all hailing from the CSI background, right? So they have all contributed to in national, and some of them also in the international level. So CSI Church is still working for unity and cooperation of the churches by being a role model, of their own episcopate. Of course, they did not show any kind of compromise. Our vishyathil avaru compromise kaanichittu. Next we see is the national and the regional developments. Okay, so city-wise, regionally, and nationally, we see various conferences was held. Last time we saw in Lucknow, in Lahore, and all those different places. West Bengal, this regional and national conferences were held. Okay, that was in the last class we saw. We see how then the NCCI was developed, right? In the so what was it all about? It is about exclusivism അല്ല. Exclusivism എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഞങ്ങൾ മാത്രം exclusivist ആയിട്ടുള്ള ചിന്താഗതി എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ ഞങ്ങൾ മാത്രമാണ് ഒരു സഭയായിട്ട് നിൽക്കുന്നത്. We are exclusive, we are different, we are unique, right? Like the Catholic Church എന്ന് പറയുന്നതിന് പകരം NCCI, their main motto was towards just and inclusive communities. To include ചെയ്യുക, മറ്റുള്ള കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റീസിനെ ഇൻക്ലൂഡ് ചെയ്യുക, അവരുടെ അവരുടെ ദുരിതങ്ങൾ മനസ്സിലാക്കി അവർക്ക് സഹായഹസ്തം അയച്ച് to be a role model church. That was the motto of the NCCI, the National Council of Churches, which was established in 1914. Of course, it was NMC first. NMC ആയിരുന്നു ആദ്യത്തെ. NCCIയുടെ ആദ്യത്തെ പേരല്ലേ, National Missionary Council, 1914. Then we see this NCCI developed with this motto of including, being an inclusive community. Okay, then we see in 1979, we see the council transformed itself. 1979 ലാണ് the NCCI was formed. രൂപീകരിക്കപ്പെട്ട് NCCI was completely formed. So it is a great ecumenical expression, constantly initiating, promoting and coordinating various forms of ministries of witness and service. വളരെ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആണ്. സാക്ഷികളാകുക എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ അതിനകത്ത് ഇവാഞ്ചലിസം മാത്രമല്ല ഉൾപ്പെടുത്തുന്നത്, റൈറ്റ്? സോ ദർ ഇസ് ഓൾസോ an aspect of social action. There is an aspect of social action. That is what we call as service. ഇത് രണ്ടും വളരെ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആണ്. പലരും ഒരുപക്ഷെ ബിബ്ലിക്കൽ ആയിട്ടുള്ള റെഫറൻസുകൾ പലപ്പോഴും നമ്മൾ നോക്കുവാണെങ്കിൽ സോഷ്യൽ വർക്ക് ശരിയാണോ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇത്തരത്തിലുള്ള പ്രവൃത്തികളൊക്കെ ശരിയാണോ? പല ബന്ധുക്കോസ്ത് വിഭാഗത്തിലുള്ളവർ പറയാറുണ്ട്, കർത്താവിനെ സാക്ഷീകരിച്ചാൽ പോരെ, ആത്മാവിന്റെ കാര്യങ്ങൾ മാത്രം അന്വേഷിച്ച് ആത്മികമായിട്ടുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങൾ മാത്രം പ്രസംഗിച്ചാൽ മതിയോ? അതൊരു വലിയ വിഷയമാണ് പലയിടങ്ങളും. പക്ഷെ ഇപ്പൊ റൈറ്റ് നോ ഐ ഫീൽ ബിക്കോസ് ഓഫ് ദി യൂണിറ്റി കോൺഷ്യസ്നസ്, ഞാൻ ആദ്യം പറഞ്ഞതുപോലെ, just as CSI churches and all, they had this unity consciousness. ഒരു പാൻഡമിക് വന്നപ്പോഴും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ജലപ്രളയം വന്നപ്പോഴും ഹിന്ദുസ് മുസ്ലിംസ് എല്ലാം മുൻപോട്ട് നീങ്ങി, അല്ലെ? അവരവരുടേതാകുന്ന പ്രവൃത്തിയിൽ കൂടെ ഫ്രീ ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഡിസ്ട്രിബ്യൂഷൻസ് ഒക്കെ ചെയ്തപ്പോൾ ക്രിസ്ത്യൻ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിയിലുള്ളവരും പലരും എന്ത് ചെയ്യുന്നു, ഈ കാലഘട്ടത്തിൽ മുൻപോട്ട് വരുന്നു. അറ്റ്ലീസ്റ്റ് പേരിനാണെങ്കിലും at least for namesake, many of them have come forward. So what we see is that still, I believe that a big amount of unity is lacking. നിങ്ങൾ ശ്രദ്ധിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് മനസ്സിലാകാൻ കഴിയും, പെന്തക്കോസ്ത് സഭകളിൽ തന്നെ ഷാരോൺ ഉണ്ട്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഓഫ് കോഴ്സ് അവരവരുടെ സഭകളിൽ ഒരു എക്സ്ക്ലൂസീവ്, ഒരു യൂണിക് എൻറ്റിറ്റി ആയിട്ട് അവർ നിൽക്കുന്നെങ്കിലും, ഇൻഡിവിജ്വൽ ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഇതിൽ നിൽക്കുന്നെങ്കിലും, വാട്ട് വി സീ ഇസ് ദാറ്റ് നമ്മളെല്ലാം പെന്തക്കോസ്റ്റൽ ചർച്ചസ് ആയിട്ടും, at least for the sake of mission, that's what I believe, we need to come together in unity. Maybe doctrinally, ഉപദേശപരമായിട്ട് അവിടെ നിൽക്കട്ടെ, വ്യത്യാസമാണ്, നമുക്ക് അവിടെ കോംപ്രമൈസ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റത്തില്ലെങ്കിൽ, at least for the sake of unity, there needs to be a big role model that need to come out of a form of ecumenical expression needs to come as far as Pentecostal churches are concerned. That's what I believe, that's what I am praying, because Muslims are united, many of the Hindus are united, many of the Sikhs in India are united. What about even our local churches? Are we able to generate a big financial support to help the downtrodden people in the society, to address the various issues of education and all those things? So what we see is that നമ്മൾ പുറകോട്ട് പോവുകയാണെങ്കിൽ the western people വിദേശത്തിൽ നിന്ന് വന്ന വെസ്റ്റേൺ ആയിട്ടുള്ള ആൾക്കാർ, they had this consciousness of doing things better, not just with evangelism, but they also came with the aspect of service, ministry. Okay, so diaconia എന്നുള്ള വാക്കാണ് അവിടെ. കൊയിനോണിയ ഉണ്ട്, അത് ഫെലോഷിപ്പ് ആണ്, അത് സഭയിലാണ് ആവശ്യം. എന്നാൽ ഡയക്കോണിയ എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ അവിടെയാണ് നമ്മൾ മിനിസ്ട്രി എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. മിനിസ്ട്രി എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ ആത്മീയമായ ഒരു ശുശ്രൂഷ, മിനിസ്ട്രി എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ശുശ്രൂഷ എന്ന് മാത്രമല്ല അർത്ഥമാക്കുന്നത്. ഡയക്കോണിയ എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ ഇറ്റ് ഹാസ് എ വൈഡർ മീനിങ്, ഇറ്റ് ഹാസ് എ വൈഡർ മീനിങ് ടു ഹെൽപ്പ് അതേഴ്സ്, മറ്റുള്ളവരെ സഹായിക്കുക, അല്ലെ? So that is very important, and that kind of a consciousness Pentecostal സഭകളിലും മറ്റ് ഇതര ക്രിസ്തീയ സമൂഹത്തിലും ഉണ്ടാകട്ടെ എന്ന് ഞാൻ പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കുന്നു, ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്നു. So NCCI, of course, I'm not going to repeat this thing. The Lucknow Assembly also be last class also be discussed on the Lucknow. They all came together and they discussed. Okay, so NCCI had its own councils and its own meetings. The next is NEICC, Northeast India Christian Council, which is formed in 1937. Okay, it was a different body. Right, so our form the American Baptist Mission, the Central Mission of the Northern churches, then the Gospel Evangelical Lutheran Mission, then we see the Baptist Mission of the North American movement. That is called as the Mid Mission, and the English Baptist Mission, South Lushai Hills, the Church of God. That is, then the Welsh Presbyterian Mission and the Church of India. So idellam compile cheyidana when we see that NEICC got affiliated with NCCI. So Northeast le സഭകളും NCCI രണ്ടും രണ്ടായിട്ടായിരുന്നു. Okay, so they got affiliated, but the problem with NCCI is that even though NEICC, Northeast le സഭകൾ, they had these 3 drafts which was made by NECCI since 1963. The problem is that they were not able to contribute much to the union. They could not come together as one concrete body. ഒരു unity ഉള്ള ഒരു ഇതായിട്ട് മാറുവാൻ NEICC കഴിഞ്ഞില്ല, ഇന്നും അവർക്ക് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടില്ല. What happened is that they convened this conference, Faith and Order Conference in Barapani in 1963, where their union, mainland union, was not possible. 3 drafts, 3 ഡ്രാഫ്റ്റുകൾ പുറപ്പെട്ടു. മൂന്നിലും what we see that they were not able to connect with the CNI churches. ഒരുപക്ഷെ ഭാഷയായിരിക്കും, ഒരുപക്ഷെ their own policies. So what we see is that they were not able to connect themselves with the CNI churches, Church of North India. Then again, 1963, the draft in the Faith and Order Conference. The second conference was in 1965. Okay, so 93% was non-Roman Catholic Church people. And we see third time another conference in Shillong, 1969, 1963, 1965, 1969 in September. Third time also the conference was held. The drafting committee, the constitution of the Church of Northeast India was formed. NEICC completely broke up, and Assamil, there's this body was drifted. In the last class we discussed. Different body was split from the NEICC. Okay, from and Assam, only a small body remained. So NEICC was not a success. They could not express their ecumenical thought, because Baptist and Presbyterian, even today, they are not together. Edward Clark, who started the Baptist missionary work in the Northeast Circle, does not formulate their own people in Nagaland and the other 7 sister states, in Arunachal Pradesh and all those Assam and Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, all these things, they are not still even united, because Presbyterians are against Baptist, and of course there are other churches, they are not united together each other. So that is why still there is not much real union, and NEICC still till today, very successful ecumenical expression അവർക്ക് ചെയ്യുവാൻ കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടില്ല. They are not able to express ecumenically, to come and form unitedly. In last class also we discussed. So this was
അങ്ങനെ ഒരു എക്യുമെനിക്കൽ പ്ലാറ്റ്ഫോം വന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞാലേ എന്തായിരിക്കും ഈ സത്യത്തിൽ ഈ സഭാ നേതൃത്വം ഭയപ്പെടുന്നത് എന്തായിരിക്കും? നമ്മുടെ ഒരു ഇന്ത്യൻ ബേസിൽ ചിന്തിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ എക്യുമെനിക്കലായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു സംവിധാനം വന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഇവര് ഭയപ്പെടുന്നത് എന്തായിരിക്കാം? കേൾക്കാമോ സാർ?
കേൾക്കാം. എക്യുമെനിക്കലായിട്ട് എല്ലാവരും ഒരുമിച്ച് വരുന്നു എന്ന് ചോദിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ അത് സാധ്യമല്ല. കാരണം രക്ഷ മുതൽ തന്നെ രക്ഷിക്കപ്പെടുക അല്ലേ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ സ്നാനപ്പെടുക, ആ ഡോക്ടറിനലി അല്ലെങ്കിൽ സേക്രമെന്റ് നോക്കിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ തന്നെ, ലിറ്ററേച്ചി നോക്കിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ എല്ലാ വിധത്തിലും നമുക്ക് യോജിക്കാൻ പറ്റാത്ത വിഷയങ്ങളാണ് അല്ലേ. ഫോർ എക്സാമ്പിൾ ലുക്ക് ഇൻ ദ കാത്തലിക് ചർച്ച്, we cannot accept, for example, yesterday I was getting connected to, I was in a program and I was getting connected to this pastor John Lawrence. So I was just silent, I was just listening. I'm not a part of any debate or anything. So they were discussing and they just asked me, can you just contribute something to the discussion? Our discussion in the Facebook live in the fall, before that Zoom meeting was going on, I was just telling. So they were discussing on the baptism, the Lord's table. So they were discussing on the Eucharist. Our vishwasikkuna the transubstantiation theory, where it was developed in the 11th century, where the bread, the bread of the Holy Communion gets literally transliterated as the body of Christ. ക്രിസ്തുവിന്റെ ശരീരമായിട്ട് മാറുന്നു അല്ലേ. അപ്പോൾ പെന്റകോസ്റ്റൽ ആയിട്ടുള്ളവരും ആ ഗ്രൂപ്പിനകത്ത് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. They were not able to convince themselves with their kind of an interpretation of the word of God. അപ്പോൾ ഞാനീ പറയുന്ന ചെറിയ ചെറിയ കാര്യത്തിൽ പോലും നമുക്ക് എന്ത് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്നില്ല, ഒരു യൂണിറ്റിയിലേക്ക്, ഒരു ധാരണയിലേക്ക്, വചന വ്യാഖ്യാനത്തിൽ പോലും സഭകൾ തമ്മിൽ വരാൻ പറ്റുന്നില്ല. So first thing I would be saying is the interpretation of the text and of course the doctrines and whether it is a liturgy. ഇവിടെ എല്ലാം വലിയൊരു എന്താണ് പറയുന്നത്, ഒരു യൂണിറ്റി ഇല്ലായ്മ നമുക്ക് കാണാൻ പറ്റും. സോ പിന്നെ ഓഫ് കോഴ്സ് പോളിസീസ് ആൻഡ് അഡ്മിനിസ്ട്രേഷൻ, ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് അനദർ ബിഗ് ഇഷ്യൂ. അതുകൊണ്ട് എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നില്ല, പക്ഷെ ഞാൻ പറയുന്നത് മിഷൻ, വെൻ യു ബേസിംഗ് ഇറ്റ് ഓൺ മിഷൻ ആയിട്ട് നമുക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും കൂടി വരാൻ പറ്റും. ഡോക്ട്രിനലി പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ faith, in the aspect of faith and order, so that's a big issue, right? Faith and order is a big issue, right? Life and work we can do. We can bring dialogues and we can do a lot of things together. Philanthropic works, ella pravartigalellam cheyan pattum, social movements, hospitals build cheyan pattum, work together we can do. പക്ഷേ ഈ പറയുന്ന the sensitive issue, വളരെ സെൻസിറ്റീവ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഇഷ്യൂ ആണ് ആദ്യത്തെ വലിയ ഇഷ്യൂ. അഡ്മിനിസ്ട്രേറ്റീവ് and doctrinal issues, then the church issues. These are the main things that had been a big problem also in the NEICC, right? So Northeast this thing, right? So I hope it's clear. Today's class is clear. I hope you understood. Okay, so what we see is that, of course, this is the application evaluation part. I will give you this paper. I hope it's clear. Somebody can just explain what you understood in today's class before we wind up. Hello, where is everybody? Can somebody just wind up what you understood? Oh, somebody else. Voice clear ആവുന്നില്ല കേട്ടോ, voice clear ആവുന്നില്ല. So today was the class was on NCCI അല്ലേ. NCCI like എത്തുവാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് various regional developments, how the earliest form of expression began, and how people like Lal Bihari Dey and Krishna Mohan Banerjee, they all came together to to liberate the Indian churches from the Western imperialism. At the same time, we saw that in the earlier stage how the Western missionaries also helped people, and people like the various names we discussed here. People like V.S. Saraya and V. Santiago all came together. But then we also see people like Eddie, L.B. Larson, J. Duthie, then Wyckoff, then John Mott. John R. Mott is a very important name. John Mott, John R. Mott. അദ്ദേഹമൊക്കെ വളരെ important ആയിട്ടുള്ള പേരുകളാണ്. So then, of course, they combined together. They took the efforts of V.S. Saraya, K.T. Paul. Okay, so that's why we see conference like മാറുകയും then we see NMC National Missionary Conference 1914 formulate ആകുകയും ചെയ്തു. അതിനുശേഷം we see CSI, as IUC ആണ് ആദ്യത്തെ സഭ which comprised of Congregationalists and Presbyterian Church. SIUC ആണ് പിന്നെ later 1947 ട്രാൻക്യൂബാറിലെ ഈ മീറ്റിംഗിൽ 1919 ഫോർമുലേറ്റ് ആയി. then we see later the CSI Church was formed, right? CSI Church was formed. And CSI Church was the first church which made every effort, right, to unite. And then we see the three associations of CSI, CNI, Marthoma Church was formulated, and JTC was formed in 1975, right? So then we see CNI Church, which was inaugurated in 1970 in Nagpur under the leadership of Gurbachan Singhi, right? And we see how their expressions, CNI, how with the Methodist Church of India later, which was formed, and the various other churches, they came together, and even the 26 dioceses, they came together and they worked to unity, collabing with the CSI and this thing. Then we see the CCI was formed. CCI, Marthoma, CNI, and CSI churches were formed. Then we see the formulation of this NCCI, right? 1914, NMCI തുടങ്ങിയത്. പിന്നീട് we see, in 1979, the NCCI was formed. Then we see, the various assemblies, Lucknow, Lahore, and all we discussed in the last class. I'll be sending the papers very soon. Okay? So I want you to write down the notes in a proper way, so it will stay in your head. So then we see NEICC, which was formed. 3 drafts were made, and but we see, the 1963, 1965, 1969. But what we see is that their attempt to come together was not successful, right? So there is still no concrete body. Baptists are Baptists, Presbyterians are Presbyterians. I hope it is clear today's class. Any doubts? Any doubts you have?
Okay, sir.
Okay, our students are very less. That's a big issue. It'll be okay. It's like exactly 1 hour. Okay, then. Thank you so much. God bless you.